What's going on, everyone? Welcome to another episode of Culture 316. I am one of your hosts, Jordan Ahisi.
And it's Edge's throat goat, Mo. What's up, y'all?
So it has been an eventful week in pro wrestling, to say the least, from rumors of CM Punk being disgruntled to executives being hired and things of that nature. But I wanted to start with Mo's favorite person, Edge. For those of you who may or may not know, Edge has had a hell of a week. He had a documentary on A&E, which is great. He returned to his hometown of Toronto to compete against Damian Priest, where he won this past Monday. But at the end of the show, as the show went off the air, he was forth and saying that he was looking into retirement. And that he wanted his last match to be in August 2023 in Toronto. Now, since he's been back in WWE, he's pretty much done anything and everything that you can think of. He's had the feuds with Seth Rollins. He's had a feud with AJ Styles. So I definitely wanted to ask you, Mo, if there was one thing that you would want Edge to focus on within this next year and accomplish before he retired, what would that thing be?
If you would have asked me last year or the year before that, I definitely would have been gunning for him to have a world title, mainly because he never lost the belt.
Yeah.
He had to relinquish it. And it was in a very saddening way. And I would prefer for him to go out on his own terms. Mm-hmm. However, with a year left, he's only going to be holding the belt for a little bit, and he would therefore act as a transitional champion. One of the feuds I really loved, and they went over in the documentary, and they even gave it a separate hour-long segment on Rivals. If I had to see John Cena around one more time, it would have to be just to run back him and Edge, just current day. The same way they were able to run back him and Randy Orton. I would love if they ran back just him and Cena, no Beth involved, none of that. Just the two of them, just because to me, it's not even because of my disdain for Beth. It's just that, to me, they gave each other one of their best feuds on their resume.
Absolutely.
Like, normally I don't like seeing people revisit feuds over and over and over and over again, like how it was with Johnny Gargano and Ciampa. But there were so many layers that they gave you each and every time that you were interested in seeing who was going to get the next up and how was this going to actually end. So I would love, just since he only has a year left, if he wants to work with whatever new talent he wants to work with, fine. I'm perfectly fine with it. He gave us a lot of content. I mean, he gave us a run back with Randy Orton. He gave us a faction that he created and destroyed. You know what I mean? He gave us like an amazing triple threat with Roman and Daniel Bryan. That was another person we definitely wanted to see. We wanted to see him fight AJ Styles. He gave us that. He could work with new talent along the way, but I would love if, since he's retiring in August, and SummerSlam could be before or after that time period, I would love if they brought it back to Toronto and they just ended it with John Cena. That's just me personally.
Definitely hear you on that. I would say that if there was one thing that I would want Edge to do to kind of close his career out, because like you said, he's had a very, very memorable run. The feud with Randy Orton, the triple threat with Bryan and Roman, creating Judgment Day, not to mention his match with AJ Styles, his matches with Seth Rollins, which I think that it was one of the best series of matches in recent history. Considering that WWE is kind of in this push to add prestige to, re-add value and prestige to the WWE United States and Intercontinental Championships, I think that I can't find a better way for Edge to end his career than with a nice Intercontinental Championship program. The draft apparently is supposed to be a thing coming up. Would love to see him go back to SmackDown, because to be honest, that's where he made his name. Like, everybody talks about him on Raw and his feuds with Cena on Raw and Matt Hardy on Raw and stuff like that. But I feel like that early 2000s Core 4 SmackDown era, where it was Edge, Ray, Eddie, and Kurt, I think that Edge really started getting his reps in and his stripes in on SmackDown. And so I don't think it's a far-fetched idea to see him go for the Intercontinental Championship just one more time. Because when you think of, there's two belts that you think of when you think about Edge. There's the big gold, the World Heavyweight title, in my opinion. And there's the Intercontinental Championship. So I would love to see him go after the IC title one more time. Obviously, this is an open-ended question. I would love to open this discussion up to anybody who, has any form of agreement or disagreement. What do you think that Edge should be gunning for in like his last program or his last year in WWE? I was going to say, did you have anything to add on to that?
No, I actually like that you made that suggestion, because a lot of people would assume that he's being selfish if he were to go for a world title, just because, there's so many other new guys, new fresh talent and whatnot. And I do feel like if he went for that belt, not only would it draw more attention to that division, which is something that Hunter's already focusing on, but it wouldn't feel as selfish, because that title hasn't felt very important in a while. So it would be nice. It would be a little more heartwarming to see him do that. You brought up a whole bunch of other things too. He has accomplished a lot between him giving us the Royal Rumble again. Him doing a lot of callbacks with his gimmicks and his character, him showing us that he could be another character. I think it would be a nice little wraparound to come back to that. So I feel like it could go either way. He could go back to Cena and give me that feud, or he could give me the mid-card belt.
I'm down with that. I agree with that. Agree with that for sure. But moving on. So Fightful reported, I think it was earlier this week or last week, that the Good Brothers contracts, for those of you who are not aware, the Good Brothers are Carl Anderson, Luke Gallows, that their contract will be expiring after this weekend. Should they try to re-sign with Impact Wrestling, or should they try to negotiate a return to WWE?
I feel like WWE could use more tag teams at the moment. I'm kind of tired of seeing the same few tag teams being rotated around. And I was actually just thinking to myself when I was watching the show that I don't hate the tag teams that we have. I'm just sick of the same repetitive feuds and storylines. So I feel like it would be beneficial to them, especially because I feel like they outgrew Impact. If they went over there and they could, give WWE something else to work with, something else for the other divisions, other tag team divisions to sink their teeth into, something new, something fresh.
Right. I can agree with that. I think that the Good Brothers have outgrown Impact. They kind of done everything that they can do, from winning the World Tag Team titles over there to, working with New Japan, and obviously being kind of reintroduced and reinducted into the Bullet Club. Quick sidebar, Impact Wrestling has been doing some incredible stuff. I don't know if anybody's been paying attention to it, but between what they're doing with their tag teams, their women's division, even their singles titles of the X division and the World Heavyweight title, they have something good going. I was able to watch Impact a couple times, and I love what they're doing with Josh Alexander, with Jordan Grace, with Mia Yim. It feels like a refreshed version of the TNA that I grew up on, that was the alternative to WWE. With that being said, I think that considering that Hunter has a focus on tag teams and that he is passionate about tag team wrestling, I would love to see the Good Brothers in WWE. I think that obviously they would get more money than if they were to stay with Impact. I think that they will be able to be reintroduced into some programs that, would greatly benefit them and enhance their legacy. I can see them doing a couple of great tag team feuds on either brand. But I feel like with the new direction of where WWE is going, I think that they can greatly benefit from them being in WWE. And I think that they should try to go back. I do know that Carl Anderson isn't too keen of Hunter. I think that after they were released, it left a sour taste in his mouth, and he was, saying a lot of stuff on social media. But you never know. You never know if amends have been made, and you never know, what better business that they're working towards behind the scenes, because we don't know it all, and that very much could have been a work. So I don't know, but I think that the Good Brothers should try to go back to WWE after their contracts expire. I think that they're done being, big fishes in small ponds, and I think that they should go for greener pastures, if you will. So moving on from that, speaking of new things that WWE is doing, WWE has announced the launch of NXT Europe along with the promotion of Shawn Michaels, which we'll get into later into the show. But essentially, WWE announced that they will be putting NXT UK on a hiatus and that they will be launching NXT Europe to further further drive their global expansion. And the last show of the NXT UK brand will be September 4th, Worlds Collide, where NXT will go head to head with NXT UK. We were able to find out a little bit on NXT last night what their aspirations are. We see that Tyler Bate and Braun Breaker will be going head to head, and it will be a title unification match with the NXT Championship and the NXT UK Championship. And that there will be a triple threat match, which I'm really excited about, with Mandy Rose, Blair Davenport, and Meiko Satomura. And it will be merging the NXT Women's and NXT UK Women's Championships. Now, before we get into the discussion about those belts, I wanted to know, in your opinion, was NXT UK a success or was it a failure?
I don't want to call it a failure because the talents were very good. It's just that it's a lot of wrestling for one to consume in 1 week, and I don't think they understand that.
Yeah.
You know, if you're a true wrestling fan, you're not just watching WWE. And if you're the type of person to watch NXT, you're probably watching AEW. And if you're really that much into AEW, you may be watching Impact or watching New Japan. So I just feel like it wasn't because they didn't execute it correctly or matter what day of the week that they would have had it on. It's just a matter of it's a lot of wrestling for one person to consume. And the way that WWE kind of lowly promoted it, I feel like it hindered us or the product, I should say, because there was no sense of urgency for us to go over there and watch it, especially if you're not reminding us and you're not putting any importance of like the belt or the talents that are over there. You know what I mean? The only time they felt important was if they occasionally in the beginning stages, they would advertise the pay-per-views. Right. But they stopped with that too and got a little bit lazy. So I think us as fans got lazy. And then again, AEW and other companies, came into fruition. Right. And we got distracted with that. And again, I forget about it. You know, I if you wouldn't have brought up in this conversation, I wouldn't even have had a thought about it. Because that's how little effort they put in on their end. If they had put more effort in just making it just feel like it not was just only important, but it was just as prestigious as the original NXT, because they almost made it seem as if like, yeah, this is developmental, this is like pre-developmental. You know? Yeah. Like, everyone always came over here anyways. Right. So it's just like, oh, it doesn't really matter. I'm going to see those same faces anyways. Just they're going to be new characters later on, you know? Right. So that's just me personally. The only few people I felt like that were relevant out of UK was Walter, people like Walter or Tony or Rhea Ripley. And even so, they hardly reference them being in UK, even though like one of their like greatest accomplishments came from that brand, but they hardly reference it. Right. So Absolutely. How am I supposed to feel as a fan about this if you guys don't even make it feel like it's important to go back and watch that and see why is that so important that they held those world titles over in the UK? So I don't want to call it a failure because they didn't try. It's a failure because you guys didn't promote it. Yeah, I feel that. Definitely understand and feel that for sure. I think in my opinion, was it a success or a failure? I say that it was neutral. Reason being is, yes, as you were saying, there wasn't a lot of effort as far as the promotion of the product. But I think I don't even think it was a matter of effort. I think it was a matter of just desire. Obviously, we know that when NXT was kind of in its heyday, Vince was in charge. And so, you know, Hunter can only do but so much. And Hunter was doing some incredible things over there. Once you set, like you said, they had, you know, Walter over there who had one of the longest UK championship reigns in the brand's history. You had Rhea Ripley kind of come up through that avenue. You had Tony Storm kind of come up through that avenue, as well as Mustache Mountain. Pete Dunne like came up through that avenue as well. So they were able to produce some incredibly gifted and talented, you know, characters and athletes. I think that
had Hunter been in charge a little bit sooner, we would have seen a little bit more of an investment made into the UK, as far as being promoted on, Raw or SmackDown, or just being more heavily featured. I think that with the NXT UK division, I think that the only time they were really made important was when the WWE would go over to the UK, because there was a show where they went over to the UK and like Seth Rollins issued an open challenge and Walter came out, and then so like they did little stuff like that, but it was nothing on like a grand scale that really elevated the brand. So I don't think that NXT UK was a success or failure. It was neutral because it produced talents, but it wasn't able to sustain longevity. But I think that a step towards, making it NXT Europe is a step in the right direction. Obviously, you're casting a much wider net, much greater possibilities, and that kind of encompasses the UK as well. So that's how I feel about NXT UK, if it's a success or a failure. Now, the second thing that I was going to ask, how do you feel about the title unification? And because the NXT and NXT UK titles are merging, both the men's title as well as the women's title, we can only assume that the tag titles are next, and the whatever mid-card titles are next. Do these title unifications qualify the NXT championships to be world championships?
Yeah, absolutely. And I feel like that's the direction they wanted 2.0 to go in. I don't think they want to treat 2.0 necessarily like it was a developmental. I do think they still want to treat it like a third brand.
Yeah.
And I do think that it does give it more credibility. And it's a lot of belts. I feel like they have far too many belts on WWE.
Yeah.
In general, to a point where a lot of people will forget who's champion. So
Right.
I just feel like it's, maybe some people may disagree with it, but I feel like when there were less belts, yes, more people were fighting over a belt, yes, but it almost brought more relevance to the belt. You know what I mean? I feel like back then, like 10, 15 years ago, when we had just one belt to represent, it wasn't just like, oh, this is a SmackDown belt, this is the Raw belt, this is this belt, this is this belt, this is this tag team belt for this brand, this is the tag team belt for this brand. I felt as though back then there's more of a sense of urgency for these people to bust their asses to get the belt. Whereas now it's just like you have about 20 belts to choose from. So it's like, all right, I don't got that one. I could go chase down this one. But there's so many, like I said, like that you start to pick and choose, all right, these are the relevant ones. These ones are just afterthoughts, you know? It almost becomes like, these are your world title belts, and the rest are basically the equivalent of the 24/7 belt.
Right.
You just have something in your hand, just have something in your hand. So I think if you merge it now, especially with the way they presented it, like I never cared for a Mandy Rose match, but just that whole like presentation, that whole visual of just seeing her come out with Mako and Blair, just that visual of just this one prestigious champion. And Mako's been around for a long time, y'all. She's been around since like the WCW days. All right.
Yes.
I don't think they stressed that, and they should have stressed that. Like,
I agree.
She is low key like a legend in her own right.
Absolutely.
To see her holding that belt and then staring the new in the eye, which is Mandy, I was like, wow, what a fucking visual.
Right.
Like, now I'm interested. I didn't care for that women's belt before, but now I care.
Right. Absolutely. I agree. No. You're absolutely spot on, and I agree with you there. First off, I do believe that there are too many belts in WWE. I think it's too many when you look at WWE overall as a product. But if you look at the brands individually, maybe there's too many belts. But I do believe that these title unifications are obviously going to enhance each championship, and they're going to make, by default, they're going to be world tag team champions, world women's champion, world, NXT champion. And to be honest, I think it should have been done sooner. Like, even when NXT was just NXT Black and Gold, like a definition of a world championship is a championship that's defended globally. Like, the NXT title was defended in Japan. It was defended in London. It was defended in Australia before there was an NXT UK. So I feel like this is a long overdue move. As it pertains to the matches that are going to be happening over this, I think these are going to be great matches that are going to enhance the legacy of each belt. I do also believe that this is a great opportunity to elevate Blair Davenport, because that triple threat, that Miko, Mandy, Blair, I think, is a great way to have Blair get both belts without making Miko look weak by having her pinned. Because Miko, from the time she joined NXT UK, has always been elevated. She never lost a match, ever, I don't think. So this keeps her protected, and I think that if you want to pivot her into NXT Europe or bring her over into the main NXT roster, which is what's happening, all the NXT UK talents, because they released about 9 or 12 NXT UK talents, I think that the remaining talents from NXT UK are going to be brought over to the main NXT roster. So I think that this is a great way to elevate each championship, and I also think this is a great way to add prestige to these titles. So I was going to say, did you have anything else to add that you wanted to add on top of that?
Only thing I wanted to add is that I feel like Blair is getting like a lot of unnecessary hate right off the gate. Because like I feel like we need someone like her in the division. I understand, yes, that whole thing with her and Ospreay happened, and she was a bully. She took her accountability for it. Okay, it happened, and it's in the past. We need someone like her, and like I loved her since even before she was on AEW, and I saw her in Stardom. Like she just has this look and this grittiness to her. But I also love the way she carries herself as a heel. I mean, it's very natural. You can see in her matches. Like she's a whole bully about it when she's a heel. I feel like she is someone that could bring more validity to the division. She is someone that is seasoned. She's experienced, which is why I'm happy she's definitely on 2.0 because we have too many green people. I understand that's the whole point of 2.0, that they're trying to bring in new faces and they're trying to, get them into shape. But we could use a veteran like her. And again, she knows how to carry herself. Her promos are excellent.
They are.
It makes me mad that Toni Storm isn't here because the two of them together as a pair was lovely, and it almost pisses me off that she's gone now. But I just been seeing the unnecessary hate that she's been getting, and I'm just like, can you guys just give this girl a break? I understood that it happened, that it's not something that we were happy to see, but it's just like she's doing something that's really good for the division, and I feel like she's going to be a game changer. Like, not even if she loses this match and she stays in 2.0, I feel like she's going to help raise that division up a little bit more. She's going to give a lot of girls their better matches, and I feel like she's definitely going to be a driving force when it's time for her to go onto the main roster. Like I could already see her having some matches that are going to tear down the show.
Absolutely.
With the 4 Horsewomen, but I mean, I could even see her having a good match with Liv. Or with a Shayna Baszler. That already was like what the first match that came to my mind when I saw her. I'm like, her versus Shayna would just give me everything. But yeah, that's the only thing I just wanted to add, just because I just think people need to kind of lay off on her.
And also Blair, if Blair ever wanted to, that I never even thought about the hate, but yeah, they do need to lay off for her. But as a tag team,
no, it's all you see on Twitter.
As a tag team, Blair and Rhea Ripley, I would like that.
Ooh.
That interests me.
That would be nasty, considering Rhea and Toni Storm were like were each other's first feud on UK.
I was saying, the story tells the story tells itself, but I 100% agree with that. Now, moving on to some executive things. So Shawn Michaels was announced to be the new vice president of talent development creative, and Road Dogg was also rehired. As reported by Faithful, he has been promoted to an executive position. It's not exactly known what type of position it is, but it is an executive position. I was going to say, do you think that this is going to lead to more changes? Where do you think that this change is going to be more prevalent, in the product that we see on Raw and SmackDown, or in the talent development that we see on NXT?
I'm going to just assume, cause wasn't that his previous role to begin with? He wasn't in NXT. He was more focused with Vince on the main roster. Wasn't that his original position?
Well, I think
I'm not too familiar with
Road Dogg and Shawn were Hunter's team. They were I think it was Shawn, Road Dogg, a couple of others, and William Regal, and that was like his go-to people in NXT. I'm not sure of if he was involved on the main roster.
Well, I feel like maybe just because Hunter would probably introduce him into the main roster, so he's around familiar faces again. Like, he's already used to these crop of people, so why not just bring him over and have him just work with the same talents again, so he's not out of the loop.
I agree. I can see that for sure. I think that these are very, very good hires. I just think that it's very interesting that literally Hunter's bringing DX back together to run WWE. I think that's so cool. I think that as far as where the changes may be a little bit more prevalent, I think that you're probably going to see more like a deeper talent development in NXT 2.0. I think that these changes are directly going to affect that, because I feel like talent development is going to start with your new crop of talent, and you can just sprinkle some refinements to be made to the main roster. But I do see a lot of changes happening in NXT 2.0 as far as how they develop the people down there. I think that not just necessarily how they develop it, but like how far they can take it. Because I feel like there was a cap on these talents and their potential, because it's like, well, we can build them up, but only but so much, because you don't know how Vince is going to react. But now that there's a full vertical in place, I think that you're going to see a lot of like talent being developed well from the ground up, and they're going to be, everything is going to be invested into them, knowing that they're going to be utilized properly once they hit the main roster because of who's in charge up there. So
do you expect to see more focus on factions?
Ooh, yes. Actually, I do expect to see more focus on factions, because I think that when you look at some of the most successful and profitable things that have happened in this industry, they've all been tied to factions. With the exception of like Rock and Stone Cold, but NWO, D-Generation X, even if you look more recently with the Bullet Club, it's a factions world, right? Like, people love factions because people like seeing groups of friends do things together. They like seeing cool cliques. They like seeing people be, being dominant, kicking ass and taking names. So I do see a lot of factions being developed, and I feel like we're going to see a lot of good factions being developed. I feel like if Road Dogg and Shawn and Hunter were heavy influence on Undisputed Era, I think they got more tricks in the bag, and I feel like they're going to develop more sound and solid factions. What do you think? Do you think that there's going to be a focus on factions?
No, you definitely took the words out of my mouth. I strongly think so. That's mainly what I was thinking about as I was watching back NXT. I feel like if he is going to be placed in NXT, then hypothetically speaking, I could see a bunch of factions either being made there or being formed on the main roster. Right. Factions are always fun. They're always a good time. I love seeing different characters, picking out, oh, this is the leader, this is the best friend, this is the mouthpiece, this is this person. Like, I think factions are fun. I do think that it's a dying art. We do have some factions that are being brought up. I know that, last week, as we discussed, Santos and his faction is going to be brought up to the main roster. And I do feel like, again, if it was like Vince McMahon's world, he definitely would have split them up and just took whoever thought he was a star and didn't make them carry out something independently. Yeah. But I do feel like we're going to see factions that stay together, but also they could still fend for other things that they want to fend for. You know what I mean? If this person wants to have a little if they want to have a little function, like say like the women's division, or this person wants to have a function in the mid-card division, I feel like they're still going to keep them as a group, but allow them to stray off and do what they want to do. Because we don't have an Undisputed Era at the moment, guys.
We don't.
Like, what is going to be at... Oh, sorry, I smacked the mic. Sorry, y'all. But I just slapped the shit out of it with these nails. That was hard in your ears. I felt so sorry. But yeah, we don't have Undisputed Era anymore, y'all. So I've been sitting there thinking to myself, what is going to be the next faction that we have created? Because I don't think Adam Cole could even come back if he wanted to. I'm pretty sure his contract has X amount of years left on it. Yes. So I was thinking to myself, like, I know that definitely hurt Hunter and Shawn in the chest, when they left, Kyle left, and Bobby Fish left. I've been thinking to myself, what is going to be their next, like, creation? Like, what's going to be their next faction here?
I wouldn't be surprised if it's a women's faction.
I'm looking forward to. Right?
I wouldn't be surprised if it's
I
a
don't know
women's
who's
faction.
going to be the next woman. But who? Like, who would we? Because I mean, we have Bailey in her faction, but that still doesn't feel like it's a. Yes, it's a Triple H move, but it doesn't feel.
They need a name. They need.
They don't
name.
have.
They don't have a name. They don't have a name. They're just Io, Kai, and Bailey, and that's cool. But I think that they need a name. Like that faction needs a name. I was saying this on Twitter.
I saw someone say Damage Control, and I was like, wait, that's their name. I don't remember them saying that.
Right. That was like a caption that they posted on something, but I don't think it was like their name. But I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if like the next big move or the next faction is a women's faction, just because like I feel like that's where WWE got hit the hardest was with the women. It's between Naomi and Sasha leaving and Bailey being out for so long. Like if they had a faction to kind of hold them down, I feel like they would have stayed afloat and there would have been a little bit more interest in the women's division. Like Riot Squad would have been perfect with Sasha and them out. But you know, I still think that the women's division needs a couple of factions. I feel like Bailey has one. I think there should be like a competing face one. But I feel like women's, if there's going to be another big faction, I think it's going to come from the women's division more than anyone. But speaking of Bailey, there was a body shaming tweet. I remember she posted something. I think you responded to it. But it was, you know, Bailey posted a picture of her.
You're cutting out on my end.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me now?
I hear you now. You're not, bitch. Just your video's going out.
Okay. Well, I think I should be good with it. But from that, there was something on Twitter where Bailey posted up a picture or something along those lines, and there was a person who responded that said, "When did Bailey get fat?" And it brought up a very, very daunting reality in pro wrestling, obviously from the male gaze, that there's constant body shaming and body dysmorphia in pro wrestling. And I just wanted to get your take on that reply, and I wanted to get your take on that particular issue.
Well, to comment on the Bailey tweet, because I did comment on that on Twitter, ain't nothing fat on Bailey but that thing hanging behind her. That girl never been fat. She lost her abs and she still looks bad as fuck. Okay? Like, she's like, what, in her early 30s? Just about?
Yeah.
Her body looks great. And also, did she not just have a leg injury and she had to retrain her leg to function again? Because I was watching her Instagram stories and she had to deal with a physical therapist that had to teach her how to use her leg again. For somebody that couldn't, like, physically move on their own, okay, for at least the first 4 months, at least the first 4 to 6 months before she actually started doing some exercise and shit, for someone that was not mobile for that long, she looks pretty goddamn good. And I feel like it's always people who haven't fucking stepped foot in a fucking gym or touched a treadmill or none of that shit that always got the most to say about these wrestlers, male or females.
Right.
You know, and there's a huge difference between ring shape and physique shape. Yeah. Like, they don't correlate. You know, there's a reason why someone like Yokozuna was like damn near 500, 600, 700 pounds or whatnot, and he was fast as shit. He was an athlete. Like, an athlete doesn't have like a one set, you know, body frame. You don't have to be cut up and lean in order to be an athlete. You will look like an athlete, yes, but you're not, you know, it doesn't equate to being athletic. You know what I'm saying? And I feel like there's just so much pressure. And we should know better by now. There's so much pressure for males and females, and we should know better after that whole steroid scandal. You know that
we should have known better.
Be putting pressure on these people, like because like we should know better from the steroid scandal. You know, a lot of these men, females too, were underneath pressure, but a lot of these men were injecting themselves with like foreign substances and working themselves out to death to get jacked in a small amount of time. You know, because I think I want to say like at least 10, 20 years ago, that's when that standard came in, you know, when like Lex Luger and people similar to him came in all jacked and stuff like that. And I got it over with the fans because, you know, to a degree, sex does sell, you know, and if someone looks good, you know, they look the part or whatnot, we as fans are going to be invested. I mean, that's why we watch certain movies. We watch superheroes that are jacked and shit like that. You know, Vince put all this pressure on the men not only the men, the females too, to the point where females were starving themselves. There's many divas that are documented that had came out with eating disorders because of the pressures that Vince and other people in talent relations would place onto these females to lose weight, get implants, get dye their hair, every single week, hair extensions, all that stuff like that. And again, like, we should just know better that we shouldn't be commenting on people's weight like that. You know what I mean? Like, it's weird how in one breath, when it comes to society, we all want to talk about body positivity, this and that. You shouldn't be judging anybody for how they look. If they happy, they happy. But then the second you see an athlete on TV that has a natural fluctuation, and everyone's weight fluctuates, bitch. Everyone's fucking weight changes. Okay? It's a natural thing, especially with age. I mean, we've seen Bayley on screen for how many years now? She was like, what, 20, 23, 25, some shit like that. Yeah, of course she's going to be little, and plus they're underpaid when they're in NXT anyways, okay? Like, these people, they're barely eating. You'll notice that people that go from NXT to the main roster, they have a fluctuation too, because again, they be staying in one spot in NXT, hardly paid. They have the gym right there. When you're on the road all those days out the year and stuff like that, you got to find your ways to just get it in and eat healthier. And accidents happen. Unfortunately, she was practicing and she had a slip up and she injured her leg, and rather than y'all being happy that she's back and she's here to entertain you guys, you selfish fucks over here, you guys want to sit here and comment on you seeing a natural curve in her belly and calling her fat and shit. Get the fuck out of here. That shit gets me mad with her. That shit gets me mad with Adam Cole. Because Adam Cole, he's not even fat. He just looks like a normal guy. Like, he's not... just a regular dude. You know what I mean? Like, he wasn't fat, but he wasn't like super jacked enough. He's not the biggest guy. He's also not the tallest guy, Like, all right, maybe homie didn't feel like going to the gym for that long or whatever. And that's fine. That is fine. The people that get on their cases the most are, again, people who don't even take care of themselves and have these high expectations of these people and then wonder why, again, they have early deaths. Injecting yourself with a fucking steroid needle or taking all these fucking pills, laxatives, going under the fucking surgical needle, that's not good for you. Like, we know this. We all know this. We're all aware of this. So it just pisses me off that, again, like, you guys need to pick and choose. You guys want to be for the body positivity movement or not? Are you for it or not? You can't pick and choose when one day, you can't shame this person, but then the next day you want to come at this person for gaining 5 pounds. Or losing 5 pounds of muscle or whatnot. Like, you don't know what the fuck these people are going through in their personal lives. Okay? You don't know what they're going through. But they... God. No, it's just like, I just can't imagine, training my ass off every single day, flying around country to country, state to state, and all that stuff. Putting my body on the fucking line, because it only takes one slip up, bitch. It don't gotta be a big move or a big spot or going through a table or whatnot. It could just take one slip up and I'm paralyzed or I'm dead and shit. And I would just hate to just be a wrestler and just like picking up my phone or whatnot and think I just tore down the house, put on this amazing match for, my fans, and I just go ahead and I see a petty ass comment saying, oh, why did she gain 5 pounds or when did she get fat? Like, fuck out of here. Like, I'm sorry, I'm getting like hot with this. It's just that, like, it doesn't affect just the females. It affects the males too, Like, a lot of people get anxiety and they suffer body dysmorphia. They develop all types of eating disorders off of this type of shit. And I feel like we as individuals need to take accountability and we need to cut the fucking shit because it's not brand new. Like, this is all information that's been put out there of how our comments and the stuff that we says affects other people. Watch the fucking show for how it is. You know what I mean? If someone's weight or their body changes, mind your fucking business. And just let it be.
Like, for some reason, it just, like, shut down again. But, yeah, you were going off, and you were completely right.
Now, I'm sorry. I went off for, like, 5 whole minutes and stuff. That got me fucked up. Go ahead.
but you had it right. I just feel like you said, like, a lot of these people who are on the internet talking about these wrestlers, men and women, aren't even consistently taking care of themselves. Like, they're not even eating correctly. They're not even... Cass is not even drinking water, but want to tell another wrestler how to be and how to look. And it also just kind of goes to show you the ignorance of so many people. Like, especially when it comes to women. Like, yes, men suffer from it too, but I know that women, they go through different changes and different, fluctuations, and it's completely normal and it's completely human. But it doesn't warrant a random person on the internet trying to laugh and kiki and get one off because of a natural body, a normal body, like, and what a normal body does. Like, granted, even if Bailey has a little role or whatever she had, I'm pretty sure that she's way more conditioned than whoever said that comment. That she's in way better shape than whoever said that comment. That she is in ring shape. That she is in a shape that surpasses the normal human being.
Yep.
But I feel like this is what happens when you put, see wrestling through a male gaze. Everything is, everything's success and everything's quality is based on how well you fit my aesthetic. And the truth of the matter is that just because somebody doesn't fit your aesthetic doesn't mean that they're not valuable. In fact, they may even be more valuable than whatever aesthetic you're creating. And I think that because of that, we need to be more cautious just about what we say on the internet, because at the end of the day, everybody's a human being. Everybody has feelings and emotions and deals with mental health issues, because it be the ones that be calling people fat that be mad or sad when a wrestler commits suicide. And it's just like, what do you think triggers that? What do you think leads to that? What do you think causes these thoughts? It's like when you're being mean on the internet, that is a direct trigger to what wrestlers end up doing. And just like you get hot about it, I get hot about it too, because it's just disgusting how fans will treat people who are literally putting their bodies on the line for y'all. Like day in, day out, week in, week out, missing time with their family, only for them to go on the internet and hear dumb comments like this. This is just annoying, and it's dumb, and it needs to stop.
They may not comment on it, but they definitely do see it,
Yeah, absolutely.
They definitely do. And
these wrestlers see everything. They see everything. Like, come on now. But I was going to say, while we're on the topic of women, and this is on the lighter side, I guess you can say. So Stardom and New Japan Pro Wrestling have announced the creation of the IWGP Women's Champion. They will be having a tournament soon, and the winner will be crowned at this upcoming Wrestle Kingdom in Tokyo, Japan, which is scheduled to be happening in January. Are you excited about this? Is this something that you're looking forward to? Is this something that you're eager to see?
It would definitely get me to
want
watch.
To know your feelings.
Yeah, no, it would definitely get me to watch, because when I first got introduced to New Japan Pro Wrestling, via one of my male wrestling friends, that was my first question. I'm like, where's the women division? Like, do they have one? Like, there's a belt for them. What does the female belt look like? And he was like, oh, they don't have one. I'm just like, why wouldn't they have one, especially in this day and age? Like, don't you know what era that we're in? I'm not trying to be like a feminist or anything, but it's just like it's not even just from a social justice standpoint. I'm just talking about just from a business standpoint. Like, they have so many amazing Joshi wrestlers over there, and it's just like, why wouldn't you want to capitalize on that and have a women's division? You know what I mean? Like, again, like, it's the hottest time right now for female wrestling, and I feel like they're so far behind. I'm not understanding why it had taken this long to make this decision.
Absolutely. Keep going if you want to keep going. I was going to say if you had something to add.
It looked like you had something to say, so you go ahead.
Nah, I personally, so I think the way that it's set up in Japan is that New Japan Pro Wrestling didn't have a women's division because they had Stardom, which is a women's wrestling company. So you have New Japan Pro Wrestling for the guys, you have Stardom for the girls, right? And Stardom was just as, popular and whatever the case may be. But when you ask casual, semi-casual wrestling fans, like, do you know about New Japan? Yes. Do you know about Stardom? Maybe, maybe not. So New Japan has this stage that Stardom may or may not have, you know what I mean? Because of their reach and because of everything they've been doing over the past 10 years with the Bullet Club and all these other things. So I think that it's big that Stardom and New Japan Pro Wrestling have connected on a level to where they can use that platform to elevate women's wrestling and women's wrestlers. And on top of that, I think that this is going to be great. I'm eager to watch it and eager to see it because, to be honest, I don't know anybody in Stardom like that. Like, I don't know any of the women's wrestlers. And I think that that's one of the biggest things to take away from this is just like, I don't know what to expect because I don't know any of the wrestlers. So now that we're going to see women's wrestling on this stage in Japan, I think is huge. I think it's great for the sport. And I'm really, really excited and eager. I think this is something that's going to expand their fan base. When I say there, I mean New Japan's. I think it's something that's going to expand their fan base even further in the U.S. is having women's wrestlers. So I'm eager to see that. Didn't know if you wanted to add anything else onto that, but
Well, because I earlier on the year and last year, AEW is doing like collaborations with New Japan. It makes me wonder now they're going to start pulling more female talents over there, or is Hunter going to be proactive? He loves he loves the indies and he loves Japanese wrestling. I'm curious to know who's going to get first dibs on perhaps introducing them, since he is opening to working with different companies. What do you think about that?
I think that's a very real possibility as well. I think that another question to ask is, when we were talking about the Mae Young Classic last week, do you think that we would see the IWGP Women's Champion in the Mae Young Classic?
That would be a crazy way to crown somebody.
It would. That would. And I feel like that's a great way to I feel like Hunter would do something like that, and they would click up with New Japan just to do, because that's historic. We've never had a world women's champion from another brand involved in a women's tournament. Obviously, the exception would be Mickie James this past year at the Royal Rumble when she was the Impact World Knockouts champion. But other than that, we haven't seen anything like that, and I think that would be huge. You know what I mean? So I don't know. We'll see, but I'm eager to see what happens following this.
Likewise. Mm-hmm.
I'm very, very eager. Now, hold on. Now, this is something that you were like, well, Jordan, you have to talk about this a little bit more.
This is your thing.
This is my thing. This is my calling, and I'm excited about it. So, WWE's getting into NFTs. So via the NFT platform Candy, WWE has officially entered the NFT game with the release of 3 Shawn Michaels trading digital collectibles. And I think that the question that I posed was, what does this mean for the future of fandom as we know it? So let me just give people a little bit of an education about NFTs. NFT is a acronym for non-fungible token. I know it's a big daunting term when we talk about NFTs, cryptocurrency, blockchain, but I'll break it down as simple as I know. An NFT is not necessarily a thing. An NFT is a container, right? And you can put anything in that container that you wish. It can be a picture. It can be an illustration. It could be a piece of music. It could be a music video. An NFT could be anything that you want to be. So an NFT is that. Now, in sports, NFTs usually have been tied to content. When we look at the NBA, they have a platform called Top Shot, where you can buy and sell moments, they call it, which is short clips kind of like as trading cards, where you can kind of like buy a certain play. So say if Kevin Durant makes a 3-pointer and I say, hey, I want that moment. Now I can use my currency, and it could be US dollar, it could be cryptocurrency, to buy that moment. And now I own that moment. I have the power to keep it. I could also resell it. And the things that make this, what makes NFTs, or I should say what makes NFTs special, or non-fungible tokens special, is the exclusivity, the rarity, the idea that there are only so much of these things available. Right. So it's kind of like the same concept of like a luxury handbag. Right. There's only but so many of these handbags. So if you have one, the price of it is up, because it's like, say if it's like 100 Louis Vuitton handbags, you got one of them. Right. You can now resell it for a higher value because it's rare. It's not around like that. And it's kind of the same thing with NFTs. Now, as it pertains to the blockchain, a blockchain is simply just a public record of what you buy. So, you buy, an NFT, it's now listed on the blockchain that, hey, this person has purchased this thing or this NFT. And that blockchain is kind of like that public record, if you will. So that's kind of a little bit of a breakdown of what NFT is, or what a non-fungible token is. I recommend people go do their own research on it. I am by no means an expert, but I collect.
You school the fuck out of me just now.
I do like NBA Top Shot stuff. I obviously bought this. But the reason why this is very, very intriguing to me more than anything is because it's a sign, it's a symbol of the times when it comes to WWE, because it's showing that WWE is catching up with the rest of the world. When it comes to the advancements in technology and rating and correlating it to fandom. I've said previously that NBA has a platform, the NFL has a platform. MLB is also using Candy to sell NFTs. So now WWE is getting in on this game, and it's actually quite refreshing. I'm very, very excited to see where they kind of go with it. Now, when it comes to the future of fandom, this is where it gets interesting, because NFTs are very much going to be seen as a digital online trading collectible, right? But when you look at it in the grand scope of things, it's merch. It's merch. It's merchandise. It is an extension of a wrestler's brand that is tangible, that is feelable, that shows you that you are a fan of that brand, right? Just like you would get a Kevin Owens t-shirt. If you like Kevin Owens, you would get a Kevin Owens NFT if you are a fan of Kevin Owens, right? So now, moving forward, I want to know how this affects, contract negotiations, because with NFTs come royalties. So say if you bought an NFT for, and this has happened, you buy an NFT for $1 million, right? Yeah, it's happened.
What?
you can buy NFTs for that amount of money, right? So say if you bought something for $1 million and then you resold it for $10 million, right? Obviously you would get the majority of that because it was your resale value, but the original creator also gets a certain percentage of royalties. And when we talk about merchandise royalties in a contract are a thing. Are we going to see NFT royalties in a contract? And how much would be the standard? So I'm very eager to know what this means, but Web3 in wrestling is something that I'm very much looking forward to, but I think it's going to be a game changer, especially for the women. I think that we're going to see Bianca Belair and Sasha Banks and Naomi and all these amazing other women get NFTs. And I think that because of their mainstream crossover appeal, those NFTs are going to be a lot more valuable than a regular Schmojo wrestler who wouldn't have the same crossover mainstream appeal. And now they're going to have more leverage when they go into contract negotiations, which means more money. And that's what we want them to get. More coin.
What about getting out of your contract?
That's going to be interesting as well, because if they get out of their contract, do those NFT royalties, are they still prevalent? Because if that NFT continues to go up in value and get resold, it's like, all right, does Sasha Banks get that money, or does WWE get that money because they are the creators of said NFT and they own the name, image, likeness of Sasha Banks?
It would be like labeled like Sasha Banks, but be underneath WWE, knowing them, right? Like
it would be something similar to that. Like it would be kind of like, it would be something similar to that. I suppose, but I think it would be very interesting. Now, with all that now, I wanted to know how you feel like this is going to affect them or affect the talent.
See, like, the thing is that, again, Vince is not around, so, like, I'm thinking to myself, oh my gosh, like, this is a terrible idea because he's going to use this to fuck people over. But then it's like, wait, he's not here, he's not present.
Right.
We have different people. Right. We have Stephanie, technically, in chain of command, and I don't really know if her brain runs the same exact way as Vince, being that she's a CEO. No, that's what I was thinking about. Will it be used to be weaponized against the talent? Is this my biggest concern? Because it would suck if you built up all your stocks because you're just like a very popular face. Like, say, for example, someone like Bray Wyatt. Like, he was selling crazy amount of merch. Imagine, like, his merch being, like, in an NFTs or whatnot. And then he got released and, they were left with all the royalties. He didn't get none of it. He didn't get a lick of it afterwards. It was just, all right, good riddance to you. I'm just very curious to know how they choose to make this operate, there should be, and I'm still trying to understand NFTs though. Cause I'm trying to see, is there a way you could like make it so that you both have access to this?
So I think it depends on the platform. First of all, it depends on the creator. It depends on the agreement that you have with said creator of said NFT. And then it also depends on the platform that you upload it. Obviously, different platforms have different rules, and different creators have different rules as far as how they want to break down like money and stuff like that. That's the reason why I was asking like about contracts, because it's like, unless that's something that's written in a contract, like how are you supposed to sort that out? You know what I mean? So
what if a third party gets some like a contract, gets some like an NFT? Like for example, Bianca already has a collaboration with Fenty. What if Fenty wants to create NFTs for Bianca specifically or whatnot? You know, is that something that you think WWE would like have to make them like, you know, give over like access to? Like anything that you get your grubby little hands on is going to be ours now.
Right. I feel like they wouldn't own it, but they probably would get a percentage of it, similar to how the talent would get a percentage of it, because Bianca Belair is technically considered intellectual property of WWE. So it's like, if Bianca's involved in anything, then WWE by default is probably going to get a cut of that. You know what I mean? So it's a very sticky situation with Web3 and wrestling, but it's intriguing. That's what makes it intriguing, at least to me. That's what makes it intriguing.
No, I don't know if I should be scared or not, because like I would hate to see my faves just get screwed over. But then again, we don't have that asshole in control at this very moment. I mean, he could be relaying things over to Stephanie, so that's why I'm a little bit concerned. I'm like, how would she handle this? I don't know how she would handle this, because in my personal opinion, I think she's a bit of a snake sometimes. I feel like to some degree she does move like her daddy, and I can't blame her because again, that's her daddy, you know. So like I feel a little bit nervous, even though it sounds like a brilliant idea. Like it sounds like it'll definitely help them, because people, if they put it in the form of merch or whatever digital, whatever thing you just mentioned or whatnot, fans regardless are going to buy. You know, people younger than you are definitely going to buy and invest, because this Generation Z, like this whole group of kids that we have after my generation, they're on this whole technology thing. They've been investing in stocks. They know way more than I fucking do, you know? So regardless, they're always going to have a fan base. They're always going to immediately, like, once this does take off, WWE is going to get a lot out of this. It's just that I would hate if, again, I would hate if the talent were used like puppets for it. Like they're basically milking them for all their worth so they could get even more out of them. I would just hope that they would get a proper cut of it, and that they wouldn't be screwed over if their contract were to come to an end, and that just all selfishly goes to them. That's just my biggest concern. So I don't know if I should be excited or not, but it is intriguing.
It is intriguing. I would say WWE and this is outside of just the creation of NFTs, they should definitely hire a Web3 or technology ethics department where they onboard people that kind of keep the company accountable, as far as, you know, going into Web3 and going into to make sure that there is equitable treatment and equitable payment for everybody that's involved, making sure that everybody gets theirs, because not just for the sake of, you know, the talent, but for the company. Right now we're living in an era where, you know, if you're moving unethically or unethically in any way, shape, or form, you're automatically going to be frowned down upon, and the value of the brand is going to go down. So for the sake of the company, to protect themselves, they need to bring on people who are well versed in this area, who can help them and the talents navigate equally, so that the talent can be well educated and understand, the company can be well educated and understand, and because they're well educated, they can come to certain agreements contractually that would be equally beneficial for the talent as well as the company.
I feel like they would.
So I think that's. I feel like I feel like this Shawn Michaels thing that they did is very much their test run. One, because they know that it can sell, because it's Shawn Michaels. Two, because Shawn is Shawn. Like he's done his deed. Like he got his bread. So he's probably just like, y'all do what y'all want to do, and y'all give me whatever y'all can. So I mean, like, this is they're test running it now, I think, with this Shawn Michaels trading digital collectible. But yeah, I feel like, you know, it's going to be very, very intriguing to see how all this shapes out. But I'm, like you said, I am intrigued. I am extremely intrigued.
And I want to research this more after we finish recording. We're
Hell
moving
yeah.
on.
And I recommend everybody who's out there to do your research about Web3. There are a lot of great resources out there. There are a lot of great entrepreneurs out there. Shout out to my guy, Joshua Franklin. He's someone I grew up with who's well versed in that. Homegirl Latasha, we still have to shoot. She's very well versed in Web3. She's a music artist. She currently has, like the last time she spoke about it, had like a music video that was being sold as an NFT, and it was worth over $1.5 million. So, like,
bitch, let
right.
me quit my job right now. What?
Like, this is a space to be in. This is a space to invest in now, even in the market that we're in. I recommend everyone who is interested in Web3 to do their research, because it's going to only be integrated into more aspects of society as we move forward. Decentralized finance is the future. Cryptocurrency is the future. NFT, blockchain is all the future. So get educated. Know your stuff.
It's really crazy how much money you can make off of this device instead of just sitting on a 9 to 5.
Off this little phone with these little apps,
yeah,
right? Like, you can make a bank. I was going to say, did you have anything else that you wanted to add?
I think we kind of went over it. I really just want to deep dive into this. Like, I'm excited now. I'm like, wait, let me find out. I gotta work no more.
Let me find out. Right.
Fuck university. You know what I mean?
Right. I do not need to be going to college. But anyway,
you know me in debt for no reason. Go ahead.
Right. But that concludes our show for this week. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Once again, thank you guys. Everyone who tunes in from Apple Podcasts, Spotify Podcasts, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, all that. Thank you. Keep liking, sharing, subscribing. We have some very, very exciting things on the way. But until then, we're going to see y'all next week. Have a great rest of your day.